reports is all about. So I've given you the context for FRS report. I've explained what FRC is and what is FRS. And we have also executed one of the serial report given by Oracle. In fact, we ran US balance sheet report, and we try to understand all the all the features that you can usually plug into an FRS report. So let me bring the public cloud instance credentials in the chat first before I forget that. So the reason why we are using public cloud instances, we would need a data for at least a couple of years, and we have it in the public cloud instance. We don't have it in the training institute instance. Only for that reason, we will be using public cloud instance for this component alone. I've logged into this instance as Anita.Kennedy, who is a user who has got access to create and execute FRS reports. And what role is required for that? It's a general accountant role. Okay, so let me log into the instance. Okay, password has been refreshed. And where do you find the FRC work area? If you go to Others tab, you will be able to see FRC work area in there. Click on it. FRC is a work area from where you can run FRS reports. And in here, you will find, again, depending on the tabs that you are in, you will find the reports, FRS reports that you can execute. And if you execute a particular FRS report, what it will do, it will go and hit the SPS cube and it will pull the balances from there. So in case you missed the last session, please try to go through the recording. I've explained everything you need to know about FRS report before you build a new one today. So what we're going to do now is create a new FRS report, and that too incorporating all the features that you have in a standard report. Okay, so let's keep this open for reference purpose. The US balance sheet report. Okay, so we're going to create a report similar to this, but it's not a balance sheet report. It's an income statement report, wherein we are going to display the expenses section. We're going to have a couple of sections in our report as well, expenses as well as for revenue as well as expenses. And while building that report, we'll see how we can incorporate all the features you're seeing here in the standard report. And where do you build FRS reports from? You need to download and install a software called FRS, Financial Reporting Studio. I've shown where you can download it from. If you click on this, and if you click on Open Workspace, there will be an install tab in there. Go in there and download FRS software. FRS. It stands for Financial Reporting Studio, and it's basically a tool that you use to build FRS reports. Once you download and install that software, if you go to the search box in your laptop and try to search for Financial Reporting Studio, you should be able to see an application showing up. Open it. And when you try to open it, it will prompt you to enter the password. Copy the password. Paste it in there and connect to the instance. Okay, so it opens up the tool. And what do we want to do? We don't want to open up a new report. If you want to do it, you have to use this option. And this is what we use to look at the definition of this report in the previous class. But we want to create a new one today. So use the first option, new report. So we are going to create an income statement report, and it's going to have all the features that you've seen here at the top. And in the grid, you will have two sections, a revenue section and the expenses section. And in the revenue, you probably have only one account, but in the expenses, you will have three accounts. We'll see how to include the accounts and how to pull the balances from there. And I'll also show you how to add a summary column as well. Okay. So blank report is created, and you will see these guidelines or fuzzy lines in the background. So if you don't want to see them, you can take them off by going into view guidelines, and those guidelines will be gone. And let's first start the report build by creating this table. So the crux of or the key part of the FRS reports is the table, or is this table, or which is nothing but a grid. This table that you're seeing, it is called as a grid in FRS reports. So to add the grid, under Windows, you see four options in there. You see four options, and we're going to use all four. The first one can be used to configure the key table or table in the report, wherein you configure the rows and columns. And in the rows, you typically select the accounts, and in the columns, you select the periods usually. That will be the case in most of the reports. But it can be other columns as well. And you can add in a text heading. We'll use this to add a text heading to the report. We can add in a logo to the report or an image to the report. We can do that with the help of this. We'll see how to do that. And in this report, if you look at it, it's only printing the output in a tabular format, right? But we will also see how we can print the output in a graphical format as well. Okay, we'll see how to do it with the help of the chart component. So first, let's click on the grid and insert it into the report. And when you add the grid, the first thing it asks you to select the database connection. So from which Essbase queue do you want to pull the details? From which chart of accounts in the Essbase queue? So you click on the drop down and you select US chart of accounts. You can select others as well if you want, but yeah, select US or UK or something else where you have enough data. Okay. And the username and password will be pulled from the login screen. So when you opened up the tool, it prompted you to enter the password, right? So that gets copied over here. You don't need to enter them again. Just click OK. And you're trying to configure a table or a grid. And yes, grid configuration requires three things. You need to configure rows, columns, and the pages. So what do you want to have as rows? What do you want to have as columns? And what do you want to have as pages in your report? So if you go back to the seeded report, let's see what they have used. What did they use as rows? From our previous session. So we noticed that even though we are seeing the text here, we are seeing the text called accounts receivables here. But when we looked at the report definition, they have used 11,000 account number, right? We have seen it in the previous session. So that means they have used account as rows, account segment. So we're going to do something similar in our report as well. So you drag and drop the account. So you pull it and drop the account in the rows section. And we want to use accounting period as column. And as pages, in the pages section, you see the company segments, right? And these two options are the ones that are selected while running the report. So when we executed this report, we got a prompt wherein it asked us to select the company segments for which we want to view the balance sheet report. We went ahead with the seeded ones. So that's why you're seeing the default company segments in there. So as a page, yes, I want to select the company segment. So I want to have accounts as rows, accounting period as columns, and a company segment as pages. Click OK. And you could see that the grid is added now. And you can, in a grid, you can have three types of rows. You can have a text row like this. You can have a data row like this, like wherein you mention the account number and for which the balances will be pulled. So if you select, so if you go back to the report specification, so we need to pull, when you get the report requirement, they will mention what account numbers you need to pull the balances from. Okay, so the revenue balances needs to be pulled from 95011. So what I need to do, I need to select that account number here. And how do I select it? If you double click on it, it will open up a member selection window. And there will be a default placeholder in there. Just take it off and expand the account segment. Expand all account values. Or you can probably expand all corporate accounts V1. This is nothing but a hierarchy that has been loaded. And you see the net income current year. You see a section for wherein the net income details are printed. Expand it as well. And you can see a revenue account and expenses accounts are also listed down there. So we're going to print the revenue under revenue section, and then we're going to add one more section where we'll print the expenses details. So I want to print the balance of 95011, which is a revenue for that particular period. So add this account in and click OK. And once you do that, if you pull this to the side, once you do that, what do you see in there? You see the account number that you have selected, 95011. But you might probably not want to display 95011 to the user because he might not know what that account is all about. So you might want to give a custom heading. So you click on custom heading and you can call it as a revenue. Okay. So when you do it this way, yes, you might see 95011 in the report definition here, but when the report output is generated, it will use a custom heading and it will print the label as revenue here. So we are trying to configure the rows required for our report first, and then we'll configure the periods. And on top of this row, let's add in a blank row. Select the row, do a right click, and insert a new row. And basically you can have three types of rows in an FRS report. A data row is what we have now, like wherein you select the account and the balances gets displayed. You can also have a formula row, which we use typically to display the summation, summary values, or other formulas. A text row, which you usually use to give a report heading or a heading to the section. So you insert a text row and you call this as, you can give it a heading, you can call this as revenue section. And if you want the heading to be in a different font like this, so here you see that the report or the section heading is in a different color, right? So if you want to give a different formatting to the heading, you can do that. You can select the row, go to format, select, and you can change the color as well as the size. So you change the color and you increase the font size as well. Click OK. So that's how you change the formatting. So for a revenue section, yes, we are pulling the balance from only one account, that's okay. But for expenses, we're going to pull the balances from multiple accounts. select the last row, do a right click and click on insert row, insert a text row and leave that as a blank row between revenue and expenses section. Insert one more text row, give a heading to this one. So you call this as expenses. And you can format this as well. And then do a right click. And it is always a good idea to keep saving your FRS report once in a while when you're building it, because sometimes FRS software might go into a not responding state. And if that happens, you will lose all the work that you have not saved. So how do you save it? You click on the save button. It'll ask you to give a path where you want the report to be saved. I've given the path in the PPT. So you need to save your report to this specific path. Okay, you need to save it to shared folders, custom, and under custom there will be a fin folder. Under fin there will be an FR folder, financial reports, which stands for. So go to that folder and save the report there. Custom. And FR, FR stands for financial reports, and you can save your report here. You can say TF15 income statement report. And in the same folder, you will also find all the seeded reports given by Oracle. So we are saving the new report that we are creating now to a folder where you find the seeded reports as well. And why do we need to save to this particular location? Because if you save it here, you will be able to access the report from the FRC work area directly. Okay, so we have run this US balance sheet report, right? And once we are done with this report build, with this income statement report build, since we are saving it to the FR folder, we will be able to access it from the FRC work area in the application. Okay, save the report. Okay, and you can add in another data row now. Do a right click and click on insert a data row. And when you insert a data row, what happens is it will take the formatting from the previous row. So that's why you see it in a blue color. And it will copy the account number from the previous data row. So we don't need both. So first of all, let's change the formatting. I want this to be formatted as a normal data row. So I want the color to be black. And I want the font size to be 1 less. And I want to select a different number here because the revenue account is currently selected. So double click on it. And you select the expense related accounts now. So you take off the account number, revenue account number, expand account section. And if you look at expenses, you see that under expenses there are 3 accounts. So I want to 3 accounts from which I can pull different types of expenses and the balances. So I want to add all these 3 accounts in my report under expenses section. So what I do is I select all the 3 and I move them to the selected list. So the first one is a material expense, which is 50,000. 60,000 account number has operating expenses balance. 70,000 has a tax balance. So I've added all three accounts to the selected list now, but we have selected only one row, right? So you cannot insert all three rows into a single row, all three accounts into a single row. So what you need to do is you need to tick this box called place selections into separate rows, so that all these three rows will get added as a different data rows here. So click OK. You will notice that the balance, the segments got added, three expense related accounts, and they got added as a different data rows. And you can give heading, custom heading to each of them. All of them will have a custom heading of revenue, which got copied over from the revenue section. So you can take it off, you can change it. So what is 50,000? It's a material expense, right? I'll say material EXP. And 60,000 is operating expense. And 70,000 is a tax expense. Give the custom headings, and that should be fine. And since we have three expenses displayed here from three different expense accounts, I want to display a summary as well, similar to what Oracle did here. So when we have multiple rows, say for example, if you look at the assets, you have 5 current assets, and a total of the current assets is being displayed here, right? So I want to display a summary row like this. I want to have a summary row in my report, which will display total expenses, and the summary of all the expense accounts needs to be displayed there. So I want to add a summary row. So do a right click, insert row, and you can say formula. Select formula, and that will add a summary row. And you can give a heading, custom heading. You can say a total EXP expenses, and you can format it, like you can probably make it as a bold. Okay. And in the summary column, you need to write the function that you want to use. What is it that you want to, what formula do you want to use here? And if you select the row, if you click on the drop down, you will be able to see the aggregate functions that you can use in the application or in the FRS report. And by default, summary function will be selected. And you can write in, you can select the rows in there. So you can say sum. And what rows do I want to sum? I want to sum the rows from 5, 6, and 7. Or I want to sum the rows from 5 to 7. So if you want to sum the rows continuously, you can say, you can open and close the rectangular brackets, and you can say 5:7. So this is how you pass a range to a summary function. Okay, so I want to sum up the rows from 5 to 7. So I open up a sum, and inside the brackets, I put 5:7 in the rectangular brackets. And you need to save this. You need to tick this, click on this green icon. Otherwise, the summary function that you have written will not be saved. So if you click on this, and if you write the function, and if you move away, this expression will be lost unless you save this. So click on it, and that will save the summary function. And now if you go back to the function row, you will be able to see the function or see the expression that you have written. And let's add in a blank row at the end. Do a right click, insert row, and insert a text row. So this is how you configure the grid. We have configured the rows in particular, right? So we have two sections now, revenue and expenses. Revenue, yes, it's coming from a single account, but if required, you can pull it from sub accounts of the revenue as well if you want. And for expenses, the balance is coming from 3 different expense accounts, and it will be displayed here. And for each of these accounts, even though you're seeing the account number in the report definition, we have given a custom heading. So when the report output is generated, you will see the custom headings, not this 95011 or 50,000 or 60,000. And we've also included a summary row. So we've configured rows now, and let's go to the columns now. So if in the seeded report, what did they do? they have printed the balance. They are printing the balance for 2 periods. One, the default period selected in the accounting period point of view. I've explained what point of views are in the previous session. I'm not going to repeat that again. So yes, we're displaying balances for 2 periods. The first period is getting pulled from the default or from the point of view value of the accounting period. And the second period is configured as a relative member to the accounting period point of view value. This period minus 13 to arrive at this period in the previous year. So basically, when you display the balances in a financial reports, you try to compare the performance of any particular period or quarter with the same period or same quarter in the previous year, right? So you don't compare 12-19 with 11-19. That's not how you do the financial comparison. You compare it with the same period in the previous year. So that's why we have also seen how Oracle configured these periods in the previous session. So configuring periods, 2 periods like this, one to pull the value from accounting period point of view and another one to pull the balance or we can configure the second column as relative member of this accounting period point of view minus 13. So this can be done quite easily. Even if you want to build this report as well, to display the balances this way, you can look at how US balance sheet report was built, and you can add in the logic. In our report, we're going to add in a slightly complicated logic. So what we will do is, I don't want to display balances only for 2 periods, a current period and the same period in a previous year. Instead, what I want to display is a balances for a rolling 12-month period. Okay, so if user selects 12-19, if user selects say 12-19, I want to display the balances from 1-19, 2-19, 3-19 till 12-19. So I want to display balances for 12 periods leading up to the accounting period that is selected by the user. So if the user selects 12-19, I will go back 11 periods in time. That will give me 1-19. And I want to pull the balances of these accounts for all these periods, starting from 1 till 12. So you need to see 12 columns appearing here, starting from 01 till 12. So how do you configure that? So when you want to configure a range, you will have to use a function. There is a function in FRC available called range. So you use a range function. And when you use range, it will ask you to configure a start member. And it will ask you to configure end member. What is going to be your end member? End member means where the range should end. The range should end with 12-19, which is nothing but the value that user has selected in the accounting period point of view. So whatever value user has selected here, that is going to be my end period. So I can configure this as accounting period, POV. But what is going to be my start period? Start period is going to be relative of accounting period point of view. So whatever period was selected in the accounting period point of view, minus 11. And minus 11 because I want to go back 11 periods in time and I want to display the balances over a rolling 12-month period. Okay, let's see how to configure this. So to configure this dynamic way or to display the balances for a rolling 12-month period, you will have to use a range function and you will have to configure start and end members like this. So to do that, I'll double click on the accounting period. I've saved the report. Double click on the accounting period. It will open up a member selection window again. Take out the default period and go to functions. There is a range function available there. Add it in. And the moment you select a range function, it asks you to configure start member and end member. End member is plain and simple. So whatever value is selected by user in the accounting period point of view or accounting period point of view that you want to select, right? So end member configuration is quite easy. So you go to end member, select the value. It is current point of view for accounting period. So whatever value is selected for accounting period, use that value as end value. Move it to the list and click OK. But the start member is going to be slightly difficult, not difficult, but a slightly complicated when compared to end member. So the start member needs to be a relative of this minus 11. So you search this, and there is another function called relative. So you take it off, select relative member, add it in, and the moment you say relative, it will ask you to identify the original member, but to whom you want to set this up as a relative, and you select the accounting period point of view again, current point of view for accounting period, click OK, and it asks you what is the balance or how much it has to offset the value by. So if 12-19 is selected in the accounting period point of view, I want to go back 11 periods in time. So the offset is going to be minus 11 in my case. So it will go back 11 periods in time, and it will start balancing from 01-19 till 12-19. Click OK. OK again. OK. And click on OK one more time. So you will notice that the periods, the columns doesn't get added. You won't see 11 columns showing up here, but you will see a range function configured. And when the report gets executed, it will display the balances for a rolling 12-month period. And how will those periods be determined? The periods will be determined by this function that you have written. So it is accounting period minus 11 till accounting period value or whatever value you selected in the point of view. We haven't added point of views yet in our report. We're going to add it now very soon. But whatever value is selected by the user in the accounting period point of view, that will be our end member. So if user selects 12-19, you will see the report displaying balances starting from 01-19 till 12-19. It will display balances for rolling 12-month period. If you select, if it is 12-18, what will happen? It will display the balances from 01-18 till 12-18. Okay, that's how it works. And yes, we did configure the rows. We have seen how to select a row and give a custom heading. We have also configured the columns now. And let's see how to add these point of views. You see the point of views on top of the report, right? Let's see how to add it. To add them, you have to select the grid. And how do you select the grid? You have to click on the first cell in the table. Click on first cell in the table, which is not here. Click on the first cell. That will select the grid, and you will be able to see the properties of the grid. Do a right click, and you see an option to add in point of views there. So if you click on grid point of view, that will add in the point of views. If you click on it one more time, the point of views will be taken off. So this is how you add point of views to your report. So you do a right click and click on grid point of view. That will add the point of views to your report. And these point of views are nothing but the dimensions you have in a SPS cube. Okay, what is SPS cube? It's basically a multi-dimensional cube wherein the balances, GL balances are stored from various dimensions. I've explained about it in the last class. So these point of views that are added now are nothing but the dimensions available in that SPS cube. And yes, after adding the point of views, you can also select default values for them. So say, for example, for accounting period, I want to select a default value of 12-19, similar to what Oracle did for this report, right? So when we ran this report, we didn't mention 12-19. It has taken it as a default value. So I want to do the same thing here. So I can do it by, I can select the default value, expand it, go to quarter four, and select 12-19. And you will notice that the default value gets selected now. For some reason, it's not saved. Okay. Yeah, you could see 12-19, and the 12-19 is set up as a default value now. And for ledger also, you can select a default value. You can probably select US primary ledger, expand ledgers, select US primary ledger. And we also probably have to select a couple of default values for couple of more dimensions. Say, for example, if you scroll to the right, for scenario, we can select actual. This way you will see only actual journals. And for balance amount, so when you run this report, yes, the balances will be pulled for this particular account, again for a range of periods, for 12 periods leading up to the period that user has selected. Balances will be pulled for this particular account in each of those periods, and it will be displayed there, right? And what balance you want to display, you can select here. And what options you have when it comes to displaying the amount here. You can display the beginning balance of the period or ending balance of the period, which makes sense. Usually the ending balance makes sense in case it is a balance sheet report, because you want to see the end balance at that particular year or financial year or a period. But in the case of reports like this, wherein you are seeing the income statement or pulling the revenue and expenses, it probably might make more sense to look at the period activity rather than the beginning balance or ending balance. So it's up to you. You can not up to you. It's up to the client. So they will tell you what a balance you need to display, whether it should be the beginning balance of the period, ending balance of the period, or the period activity. So you select the balance amount, and you will see that there are three options available: beginning balance, ending balance, period activity. So we will select period activity, and I want to display how much of revenue has been earned in that particular period. I want to see the activity rather than a beginning or an ending balance. Okay. And yeah, this is how you select, you add the point of view and you select default values there. But if you look at the report, for some of these point of views, you can select any value for that matter. Say, for example, if I click on accounting period, I can select any period and I can execute the report. Yes, of course, the default value is 12-19. The default value is 12-19, but I can select any period and execute the report. And the same applies for a few other point of views as well. So when you define a point of view, yes, you can add point of view to your report. You can assign default values to the point of views like these. And you can also restrict the user from selecting values in the point of views. Say, for example, if you click on currency, you will notice that there is only one option available. You cannot select any other currency. So what Oracle would have done is they would have restricted what values a person running the report or a report viewer can select for currency. Okay, let's see how to do this, how to put in restrictions in terms of what values user can select in the point of views. So if you want to put in some restrictions, you have to do a right click on the grid. So select the grid again. How do you select the grid? In case you missed that part, you select the first cell in the table. Select the first cell in the table, and that will select the grid. Do a right click again, and you have clicked on grid point of view to add the point of views, and we have selected default values for few of them. But I want to restrict the value that user can select for some of the point of views. And I can do it from going into this option, grid point of view setup. So click on it. So in here, you can select what report viewers can pick up for each point of view. So by default, it will be any member for all the point of views, which means user will be able to select any accounting period and run the report. Okay, so I want to leave all of them open, but when it comes to currency, I don't want the report viewers to select any currency. I don't want to leave this wide open. So I click on the drop down, and I can do a couple of things here. So I can leave it as any member, meaning report viewer can run the report in any currency he wants. Or if I want, I can select a member from a list. And what happens if you select this is a list, an option to pick up a choices will be opened up, and you can select a couple of currencies or maybe the 3 or 4 currencies that you want to enable for the report viewers to pick up for this report. So say, for example, if you want users to be able to run this report in USD and GBP, okay, but not all the currencies. So what do? Instead of any member, you select a member from a list, and you go to the choices list here, and you select USD, GBP. And you have got third option called nothing lock member selection. So what Oracle would have done for this particular report is, they would have selected for currency, they would have selected this option called a member from a list, but in the choices list, they would have selected only USD. So that's why you're seeing the sort of a hyperlink there, a clickable link, but when you click on it, it is showing you only USD there. You don't have any other option, right, apart from USD. So what Oracle could have, the way Oracle could have configured it is, it would have selected this a member from a list option, and they would have selected USD here. Okay. And there is one more option called nothing lock member selection. So what this means is, if you select this, you will see currency, and you will also see the value that you have selected as a default value. And what did we select as a default value? We selected USD, right? And we are also asking it to lock member selection. What that means is, you won't see a hyperlink like this. It won't be a clickable field. So you just see the currency :USD printed as a static text. You will not be able to click on it and change the value if you select nothing lock member selection. So only for currency, I'll select it as nothing lock member selection, because I want to show you how the output is going to look like, or how currency field is going to look like. Okay, so this is how you can control what report viewers can select for the point of views or the dimensions. Click OK. Save the report. And when we ran this report, let me run it one more time. So if you run this USA balance sheet report, what's the first thing you're seeing? You're seeing a prompt, right? So you're seeing a prompt wherein it is asking us, or the report viewer, to select the companies for which they want to view the balance sheet report. So we are basically giving user an option to pick up the company segment for which he wants to view the USA balance sheet report. So we also want to do something similar to this. We want to configure a prompt for our report as well, and we want to let the user select the company segments for which they want to view the income statement report. So we'll see how to configure the prompt. And for a prompt, again, you can select the default values as well for a company, so that user need not select values every time they run it. Only when they want to select a different company, they will change the values here. So if I go with the default selection, if I click OK, you will see the balance sheet report for two companies in there, 101 and company segment. And where are those companies showing up? It is getting displayed under pages section here. Since there are two company segments selected, 101 and the total company segment, if you click on the drop down, you will see both of them. So how to configure that? So to configure that, you have to click on the pages, click on pages and double click on it. Take out the default placeholder in there and select prompt for company and add it to the list. And click OK. It will ask you to configure the prompt. So you can probably say, please enter company. And you can also select the default member or the default company segments that need to show up in the prompt. So you can click on the member selection and you can select one or two company segments in there. Take out the default one, expand company. Or maybe go to all companies and directly pick it up from there. Yeah, pick up 101 and pick up the total company segment as well, similar to what Oracle has done for US balance sheet report. So I'm selecting 101 and the total company as a default values. Click OK. And you can select how the members need to be displayed. So if you say member name, only the name will be displayed. If you say alias, only the alias will be displayed, meaning what 101 is all about. It is a US1 LE, I believe. So how you want this company, how you want the members to be displayed will be controlled by the option you select here. So if you select member name and alias, you will see the member name as well as the description of that particular company. Click OK. And this is how you configure the pages or the prompt. And save the report. And what else is left out? We need to configure the header section, the logo and the heading. So insert text, select insert text and paste in the heading there. You can say that it's an income statement report and you can format it. Or rather stick to the black color, but increase the size of the font. You might probably want it to be a 14 or more. Or maybe 16 and click OK. So that's how you add the heading to your report. And you can make it as bold if you want. And you can add in the logo as well. And the way you add a logo is you see an option to insert an image. Click on it and add in a logo. Select Oracle logo or the Training Institute logo. Pick one of them. Delete it. It has to be a properly sized logo. Pick up the Rainbow Training Institute logo and add it in there. Okay, you can do a bit of formatting there. It's okay. And what else you can do? You can also display the balances in a graphical format. But before we go to that, you can select the grade. And there is another important property that I mentioned about FRS reports, right? So the biggest benefit of using FRS reports is the drill through capability that it offers. Say, for example, if you for this, so you're able to see the balances. You're able to see the balances for different accounts in different periods. And if you want to see from where this balance has come from, you could see that this is a clickable field, right? So if you click on it, you see a pop-up and you get two options. And these options will help you to figure out where this balance has come from. So this accounts receivable, we know that it's 11,000 account number, right? But that 11,000 is a topmost receivables account that might have other child accounts. And from those child accounts, the balance would have come, which would have summed up to this value. So if you want to see what balance has come from those child accounts of 11,000, you can click on this. You can, and for you to be able to click on this, you need to enable a drill through functionality in your FRS reports. I'll show you how to do it in a moment. But if you enable drill through functionality in your report, you will be able to click on the balances and see these two options. And these two options will help you to get the details. The first option will help you to figure out from which child accounts this balance has come from. And the second option will help you to figure out from which journals this balance has come from. So these two options will be quite helpful in case you want to see. So in case you see some balance which is not in line with the expectations, you can quickly figure out the culprit by clicking on it. And you can go to the balances, see what is the balance, what is the journal that has come with a balance, unusual balance, and you can figure out the reason quite easily. So for you to see this sort of a pop-up, you need to select the grade, and in the grade, you see under properties, there is an option called drill through, select that option. And if you select this, that will enable this functionality in your report. Like you will be able to click on the balances and you will be able to drill through to see the balances from the child accounts or from the journals that has come. Okay, so this is quite important. And apart from this, there are a few more properties that you can set at the grid level. Say, for example, if I run this report for, say, a company segment is fine. Let me run this report one more time. And this time I select 102 as well. Add it to the list. Click OK. If you click on the drop down, you see the balances. So you see three company segments. And if you run the report for 102, you could see that for some of the reports, for some of the rows, you see this hash missing tag, right? So this hash missing indicates that there is no balance for this particular account in that particular period. And similarly, if you change the ledger, say for example, change US primary ledger to a different ledger, maybe US IFRS secondary ledger. You notice that there is no balance for these accounts in 101 company in 12-19 period. So how is that getting displayed here? It is getting displayed as hash missing. And since this is a summary row, which is trying to sum up values of these segments or of these rows, and since you have a varchar value in there, or a character value, you are getting an error, and the error is getting displayed as hash error. So you can control how you want these tags to be displayed. So at the grid level, you can configure. So if you select the grid, if you click on suppression, you will be able to see the options, or you will be able to set the text options here. So if you don't have any data for a particular account, so it will be displayed as hash missing. So if client is not okay with this, if they want to see a different text, say for example, no data found or something like that, okay, you will be able to change it here. So instead of hash missing, if you change it to no data found, if for any of the account you don't have any balance, then it will be displayed as no data found. Okay, so these tags you can change in case client wants it. Okay, so the error gets displayed as hash error. You can change this as well if you want. Okay, go back to the general tab. And let's add in the chart to our report. So if you look at the balance sheet report, it is only displaying the balances in a tabular format, and it's not printing any graph there. But in our case, okay, let's change this ledger back to US primary ledger. Okay. In our case, let's add in the chart as well. I just want to show you how you can display the values in a graphical format as well. So you click on the chart or graph, and you can add it in your reports view. For some reason, this entire report is selected here. Okay, so the grid got deselected now. And I can add in the graph, select the graph, and add it at the end. After the balances are printed in a table, I want to display it in a graphical format as well. You can pull this up. And you can configure the graph. You can select how you want to display it. Yeah, of course, you can format it. That's quite easy. But here, what balances do I want to display in the graph? I want to display the rows expenses from 5 to 7, so that a quick look at it will let me know whether the expenses have increased over the 12 periods, or whether it remains stagnant or not, or whether it remained more or less the same. So I want to display the balances from row 5 till 7 in the graph. So in the data range, you select the data range as 5, 6, and 7. And you can click on format chart, and you can give some titles there. So you can give a title to the chart. Say for example, you can call it as expenses by month. And you can give a title to the legend as well. You can probably call it as a type of expense, whether it is a material expense or something else, or operating expense. And you go to access, and you can give in the metadata title and the primary access title. So you're basically giving titles to the report, what to show up here, what to show up here, and what to show up on the X and Y axis. So the metadata title, you can give it as by period. A primary access title, you can select it as amount in dollars. And you click OK. Okay, so you will be able to see the change that we have done. Okay, we have selected the data range. Yeah, we've given the titles as well. And that's it. It's time to run the report, save the report. So whatever we have done, I've given the detailed instructions here as to each and every step that you can perform. So I've given these instructions in slide 13 till 15 or till 16. You can just follow along. And where do you run this report from? We have saved this to a standard folder in the reports and analytics work area. So if you look at the instance, in this instance, if you want to access the reports and analytics work area, you can do it from the navigator. So if you click on navigator, go to tools, you will see reports and analytics. You can click on it. I just want to show you where the report is saved so that you guys get an idea. So click on browse catalog. It will take you to a BI server, a business intelligence server. And this is where we saved our report to. So if you go to shared folders, under shared folders, you have custom folder. And under custom folder, you have a fin folder. Under fin, you have FR, which stands for financial reports. If you expand it, you see all the financial reports here. So all the serial reports given by Oracle will show up here. And in this particular folder, we have saved the custom report that we have created just now. Okay, it's showing up our name or the log username with which we save this report. And whatever reports you save in here will be accessible directly from the Financial Reporting Center work area. So for a report to be accessible from FRC work area, you have to save it to this particular folder. Okay, I've given this folder structure in the PPT as well. So no need to worry about it. And it's time to execute the report. So how do you execute it? Go to Others tab, go to FRC and search for the report that we have created just now. So you go to All tab, don't search in recents, go to All tab and you can select a TF15. Income statement report. Sometimes you might have to sign out and sign in back again, or you might have to log into a new session. For the report to show up. Go to Others, go to FRC work area and search for the report. And you should be able to find the report now. Execute it. And when you run it, first of all, you should see a prompt, which should ask you to select the company segment for which you want to run the report. And then you could see a default values in there, two values, 101 in the total company segment. Here you go with the default values. If you want to change them, you can click on this and change it. Why are you seeing two values in there? Or you're seeing the member name as well as the alias. So if you select only the member name and not the alias, you might probably not see this. Click OK. And what do you see in there? A report output is generated. You could see a logo. Yeah, you have to properly put a properly sized logo in here. And you can also move this income statement report. A bit of rearrangement you can do. And what do you see in the point of view? So in the point of views, you only see 5 segments in here, or four point of views rather. For the point of views, for which you have selected a default value, those will appear within the table, and the other point of views will appear at the top. So if you don't select any value for a point of view, those will appear here. If you select a default value, those will appear here. absolutely no difference between these and these. It's just that for these point of views, you have selected default values. Like for this one, we have selected 12-19, right? That way. And if you click on the pages, you see two options in there, 101 and company. Again, in the prompt, when you configure it, you can select how you want them to be displayed. Is it just a member name or an alias? Okay. And the report is currently displaying the revenue and the expenses for a 101 company. And it is displaying balances for a rolling 12-month period leading up to 12-19. Why 12-19? That's because that's a period that is selected here, right? Selected in the point of view. So the range is calculated. How did we configure the range? A start member is accounting period point of view -11, end member is accounting period point of view. And the value of accounting period selected is 12-19. So 12 minus 11, 1. So the report started printing balances from 01-19 till 12-19. And you could see the revenue and you could see the period activity here. So why are you seeing negative values here? It could be that a negative revenue might have been reported in that particular period. Remember, we are not printing the ending balance or a beginning balance of the period. We have selected period activity, right? So a negative revenue might have been reported. So that's why you're seeing balances in a negative here. Okay, there's nothing wrong that we have done in the report. Okay. And you've got expenses section and you see 3 different expenses printed here. And again, even though you're seeing a text here, where is this balance coming from? So this has come from 95011 and these 3 have come from 50,000, 60,000 and 70,000 account number. And you see the balances. And these, and you also see a summary column, which is a sum of all these 3 values. Summation got printed as well. And if you look at these balances again, you notice that these are clickable fields, right? So if you click on them, you will be able to see the balances where they have come from. So if you click on say material balance, you can see from which child accounts this balance has come from. So if you click on drill to account inspector, so if you expand this, you see that the total balance is this. And out of this, 50,100 account number has contributed this much balance and 59,000 has contributed this much balance. So this way, you can easily figure out from which child accounts this balance has come from. And in a similar fashion, you can also figure out from which journals you have got this balance as well. So if you click on it, and if you select the second option, drill to detail balances, you can also figure out from which journals you got this balance. And if that journal has come from a subledger, you can also go down till the subledger transaction level. And if you scroll down, you see that the graph got printed and it's displaying the expenses by month. You see 3 different expenses: material expense, operating expense, and a tax expense. And it is you're seeing the amount. You see the amount in dollars and by period. And if you look at the graph, one quick look at it, I can make out this purple line or the material expense has been increasing steadily over the year, right? But if you look at this yellow line or the operating expense, it is more or less the same all through the year. But if you look at the tax, it has not increased for the first 2 quarters or 3 quarters, but in the last quarter it has increased slightly, a little bit. Or slightly, right? So this way, this is the benefit of printing the balances in a graphical fashion if required. Okay. So any questions, guys? Any questions in what we discussed today? Okay, I'll take it as no. So you can run it for a different accounting period again. So if you want, you can change it and run it for say 12-18. and the report is executed again. And you could see the balances printed from 01-18 till 12-18. And the balances, expenses are printed in a graphical fashion here. Okay. So any questions, guys? Any questions in the FRS reports? I've given the detailed instructions in the PPT. You can go through it. Okay, there's a pin drop silence. Hope you guys are able to follow what we covered in today's session, right? Can you guys hear me in first place? Can one of you confirm?
Yeah, Prasad. One question there. So it's like the end period we are selecting as December of that particular year, but it can be any period in between the year. Let's assume if it's 6, then it will go 7 2018 to 6 2019.
Correct. Yeah, that's how it works. You can select any period. I've just selected year end, but you can select any period. What it will do is it will go back 11 periods in time and it will print the balances.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, thanks everyone. We have a couple of topics left which we'll pick up tomorrow. We need to look at the disbursement payment file formats, and we need to look at a SmartView report as well. So we have created this report, this FRS report, right? So there is another alternate option to print to report on GL balances, which is like a SmartView report. So to report on GL balances, you can build an FRS report like this, or you can build a SmartView report. So tomorrow we will cover SmartView for the first half an hour, and then I'll show you, and then we'll move on to a disbursement payment file format customization. Okay, so in finance implementation projects, whenever payments are made, a file needs to be generated and passed on to the bank so that they can execute the payments. So that component will be involved in all the finance implementation projects. So we'll cover that component tomorrow after the SmartView. Okay, so with that, we'll be done with the technical training for your batch.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Thanks, everyone. We'll meet again tomorrow at the same time.